gonna wing it. So one of the reasons we invited Brittany here is because she has just so diligently applied these lead well principles and moved her work week from 7 days to 3 days and is growing amazingly in developing her team. And so I thought it's going to be fun to hear you talk about how you did that, Brittany. And I'm going to have you share three of your bio bullets, no, two of them about yourself right now. So go ahead and unmute, and then we're coming to you, Jen, and then we're coming to you, Dee.
Hello, you guys. So my name is Brittany Borseth. I am originally from Minnesota. I live in Littleton, Colorado, and I own a health and like a nutrition business here in Colorado. I've been doing that for 8 years now, and I lead a team of 12.
And a fun fact, give us a fun, crazy fact.
A fun fact, I've been vegetarian for like 16 years now.
Wow. That's so cool. Vegetarian. I've got a really good vegetarian cookbook. I'll have to talk vegetarian recipes with you. I sometimes like to eat that way. Jen, did you stop eating meat? Did I remember you telling me that once? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, let's come to you. So this is Jen Halverson, a new last name.
New last name. Yes.
Newly married. And Jen, we just invited you because there were so many things that you worked on and grew in your leadership while you were here in Lead Well. And I remember specifically talking a lot about your vulnerability. And also what I like about you guys is you're kind of all have different roles. Like Jen, you work within an organization. So there's a lot of people watching who and viewing this who also work in an organization, and just kind of navigating that discussions with your boss when you can't always, like you can't necessarily change the environment, but how do you work on that change within yourself? Mm-hmm. Tell us three things, kind of like Brittany did, kind of model an intro like that, please.
Yes, absolutely. So I lead a cross-functional team, including developers, user experience people, creatives, project managers. So across the board from different personalities for sure. And then with that, I lead it across 8 different companies in 2 different countries. So that has a whole level of complexity in and of itself. I've been with our organization for 25 years in 9 different job functions. So I've seen it grow from 22 employees to well over 200 in that time. So when you grow that quickly, there are a lot of challenges with different leadership styles, different leaders from different organizations. So a lot of this came from understanding my position in the organization, having been here so long, and how to not, and then you mentioned this, Jen, how to not play the victim role, because that's the vulnerability part, right? How do you consistently not be the victim in something and then take a leadership approach?
Yeah. And tell us something fun. Oh, I'm going to tell one thing fun, and then you share one thing. Okay. Jen finds fun rocks and paints on them. Little things.
And then we also sometimes will leave them when we go hiking on the side of the path for other people to find.
So them. Cool. Let's all do that. Everybody who's watching, I want you to pick a rock, paint it, and leave it somewhere. I think that's so cool. Like it'll have a fun word or saying on it.
An interesting fact, we did that on a hike south of here, and I actually saw that exact same rock. Somebody who was connected to somebody posted it online and said, I found this great rock with this great message. And I was like, and for us, it was our family values. So we have 7 family values, and we painted our values on rocks and we left them places. So it was really cool to see the connection of someone finding it.
So cool. Yes, that's right. I remember that post. So cool. Yeah. Okay. And you're fun.
So fun fact, I love adventure. So the hiking thing is great. And I'm addicted to travel. Anytime I have a free minute or a free weekend or free anything, whether it's just around the metro or if we can find a flight somewhere. So anytime that we can travel or do adventure, that's a bit of my addiction.
Nice. Fun. Well, Dietrich Winter, who I had trouble spelling your name for so long, and I loved it when you said Diet Rich. And then I was like, okay, got it, Diet Rich. Dietrich, and I invited you for several reasons, but you're such a humble, energizing leader. and you really have developed your skills. It's been a pleasure and honor to work with you for a long time in your career, even when I had other coaches working with us doing one-on-one work to today. And one of the things that I think is cool, a current lead weller, you have sent some team members also through the program, and I just have a heart for seeing potential, cultivating potential. And you like practice what you preach, man. You put it to work and are expanding into other areas, other companies. And it's been so fun. And I feel like I learn, from all of you when we're working with our clients. It's just the group setting is so fun because you get to be inspired and learn from each other. So Dietrich, tell us something, a fun fact about you and a little bit about your business like this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do have a passion for partnering with people who I enjoy being with, and starting companies or growing companies. That's led to me being involved in 4 different companies currently. And I have a blast with that. A fun thing about me, I've had a childhood dream of getting my pilot's license, and I'm only a handful of flights away from finishing that process. It's been a long one, but I'm going to be leaving straight from this actually to the airport to check off one of those. Hopefully the weather cooperates. So, yep.
That's so awesome. Share a little more about your companies.
So we have a couple agencies that work with individuals, elderly, like in assisted living or in disability supports. One agency does work in home and does employment support. So we are contract vendor with the state's Department of Economic and Employment Development, help individuals develop vocational themes that work for them, help them find employment in the community, support them in how they may need supports, and advocate for them. We also have an agency that I'm really passionate about, where we increase capacity for foster care in our region. We help families become licensed, support them through statutory compliance, training, support plans. And then in turn, we become an advocate. We're an advocate for over 100 individuals across northeastern Minnesota with cognitive or physical disabilities in foster care, whether adults or children. And so, yeah, we are doing lots of stuff there. Oddly enough, I also co-own a garage door service installation company. So with my brother. So. Yeah.
So good. It's really been fun to see. Whoopsie, hang on, let me just change one thing. To see it all happen. And someone dropped in, geez, gosh, lead wellers are interesting people. They are. And I mean, I think it's one of my favorite things is it's a difficult message sometimes to get across, but I'm hoping you see it today. Leadership principles for a modern workplace aren't different between industries. I mean, the skills that you need to evolve and develop are the same across all different industries. And I think it's really rich. It's a rich environment inside of LeadWell because you really quickly can kind of go, oh, look at that person who's dealing with the health and wellness industry, or look at that person who's running a credit union, or look at that person, who works in an ad agency. And I mean, there's all of these different places, and the common denominator is people. And people with higher levels of EQ are way more rewarding to work with. And so it's fun as people evolve. Okay, we're going to dig in. So we had some questions that were submitted by some of the people who are ticket holders for our conference and people who are interested in working with us. And so let's maybe start, and you guys can we can get be comfortable and cash here with this conversation. When you have something to add, we'll see just where the conversation flows. And if you all have questions of each other that you want to ask too, I'd welcome that. So let's start with what motivated you to, what issue brought you to wanting to work with an executive coach inside of a program, something like this? What was that issue? What motivated you? Go ahead.
Can I take that one?
Yeah.
And I mentioned it earlier, but as we were growing, we had leadership changes, and navigating my position in the organization, not ever having any formal, I don't know if anyone else is this way, but we we tended to just, if you do a good job, you get to be a leader, right? Like you're doing a good job, now you're going to manage a bunch of
Yes,
people,
we call
right?
it the superstar syndrome.
Yeah. And so that does not necessarily mean that we're all great at being leaders in that position. So I had never had leadership training. I found myself struggling a little bit, I felt like things weren't always great with how to handle employees, but more than that, it was even coaching up where I felt I took on the victim role a lot, right? Like, well, how come she's not showing up to my conference calls? How come she's not asking my opinion? How come, and all of this stuff, which is the victim mentality that I learned because it's just easier than problem solving. And so I realized that I'm like, I need a mentor and a coach, someone that I can learn how to be better at this job because I know that I've never had training. So Jen and I started working together. And I think the biggest thing was how to turn that lens from being the victim to say, how do you take control of your life and your leadership? You lead this, even though you're leading up. How do you lead up versus, and as opposed to leading your subordinates or your direct reports? So that was the number one reason was I was really struggling with feeling like I wasn't where I was supposed to be, not sure where to go from here, knowing I didn't have the foundation to do this well.
So honest and so good. How about you, Brittany? What motivated you? What kind of pressing issue motivated you to choose to work with us?
Well, I'm definitely guilty of superstar syndrome. I always was going to different conferences, reading the books, trying to be as coachable as I could, and always trying to learn and grow and become better. And I had hired a coach one-on-one, and that was great, but I was still missing something. Like I almost felt like I was in a bubble and there was something somebody could see that I couldn't see, if you guys can relate to that. So I was like, I need help. Like, I feel like I am failing in my business because I was leading people, but I didn't have the systems in place. I didn't know what I was doing in that of leading people. So I was doing everything. And like Jen was saying, I felt that victim mentality, like, why aren't they helping me do this? And why aren't they showing up for that? So instead of working in my business, I wanted to work on my business and take that shift. And this program was really attractive to me for that reason, because it was something different I had never been exposed to before.
Okay, good. How about you, Dee?
Yeah, for me, it really started with like my personally needing to work on a vision for what I was doing. I found myself, oddly enough, running a company that I had never intended on owning or running. I come from a nonprofit world, working with volunteers, raising funds, and because of a quirk of circumstances, took over a family company and decided to get coaching to like work on, well, I need some vision. I need something that I'm excited to get up for, out of bed for, and work on. And so that was part of it, coming up with my own audacious goals and a vision of something I could be passionate about. It led to a vision of, expanding our company, living wages, meaningful benefits, making our employees really our competitive advantage. And that has passionately led us through a process over the last 6 years. That's been really amazing and a wild ride, a lot of work. But then also the next level was there was a process of learning. I needed to learn to manage, how to manage better employees versus volunteers. There was different nuances. And I remember key moments, one meeting where trying to negotiate some interpersonal stuff between coworkers and between two, and then in the process have 4 employees leave our company over a meeting that went so poorly. And at that moment, I was like, I need to learn how to do this, and I don't know how to really manage a company. So that led to eventually like Lead Well, and so coaching for me, but then that next level of learning how to coach others. And that is really kind of revolutionized what I was doing. And then as we've grown, bringing in Jen and Lead Well to train other key leaders. And really every company I'm a part of and every agency, there's an element of coaching in every one of them at every level. And it's really, I like how you refer to it as like a modern management technique.
Mhm.
It is, I've come into situations where there's been a former boss or employer or manager stuck back in, I don't know, the 1950s or something. And it's like, well, this is 2021. And
Mhm.
we have a growth mindset. So we start with where employees are and help them grow to be the best they can. And that only benefits us as a company. And
Mhm.
it's something I can be passionate about.
Mm. So good. Isn't that great? Just love it. I love hearing all of this. And Dietrich, you are the one that coined this term originally, and I've started using it, and it really resonates with so many people. And Dietrich has been somebody who's, so I have said before, some lead wellers will be in lead well, they'll renew. Brittany just renewed again for another 10 months, because I think there's this like phenomena, like the more you learn about being able to be a leader who draws out the best of others, the more you realize you need to learn. Like the more you realize it's a process of mastery. It's not like this, okay, I'm going to read a book and I'm going to be better, or even go get a degree and I'm going to be better. I mean, there's this application that really is a must for the kind of transformation that you want. And you've talked about this term, coaching culture. You were like, I want a coaching culture. And so we started talking about that. And I don't think that when people first come into this world of development, it's not what you're looking for. And you're even like, well, coaching, I don't want to coach. I want to be a better leader. I need better strategies. Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's totally a strategic approach to being intentional and building kind of this, just putting these skills and this sort of way of being into every thread. How do you define that? How do you define this coaching culture? Or how would you describe that, Dietrich?
Oh, that's good. I would place the two things that are important to me. One is developing a growth mindset, acceptance among employees, supervisors, that everyone, whether they're new to a company or not, when they come in, they're at their own place. They have growth. They're somewhere on a spectrum of skills and growth, and accepting that fact is really important in our line of work. That it takes time for people to understand the culture and understand the work, understand the processes, and no one's in the same place. And so that creates a culture of safety where everybody's supporting each other and moving along in that process.
Mm-hmm.
The other, probably one of the most important things is it was the realization. I remember these aha moments lead well that, oh, I can coach in a 5, 10, 15-minute conversation.
Yes.
That I can over time empower employees in these interactions that happen just on the job site or in conversations and phone calls. And that just over time empowers people, helps them understand, how they can contribute, their role, and they take on more independence and more agency. And less of that is coming to me to make a decision or put out a fire, because they can see what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. It's so good. Yes. That growth mindset is so important. And I really encourage, I think, was it you, Dietrich? Somebody once said to me, are you sure you want to teach all your clients these coaching skills? Like you're going to work yourself out of a job.
I think that was me. I think I did ask that. Like,
Yeah,
you
what
really
do
want
you
to teach
think
people how to
about
coach?
today?
Like, you make your living coaching. But yeah, it's been invaluable to us.
Yeah. Well, and that's really a vision, right? Like if I'm doing a good job too, you'll become better and better and better and better, right? But I think it's also, I equate it a lot to like almost a martial arts mentality, where if you walk into a dojo of martial arts or like the karate place in your local community, you'll see these colorful belts on the wall typically, and you'll see at any one time beginners working and the masters practicing. And I think that's one of the things I love. So let's hear you guys talk about your experiences with the practice, like the practice component, how that helped. What did you think about it when you first learned, like, oh, we're going to practice these skills here in Lead Well, and how it's helped?
I'll take that at the beginning of this. So I think if you get the title of a leadership job, you tend to think that that person has to have the answers, right? So you come into any situation trying to problem solve or asking the wrong questions. When in reality, a coach's job is to just ask the right question to allow whomever you're coaching to solve the problem themselves, which takes you having to have all the answers off the table. So it's not common, normal nature, at least it wasn't for me, to ask the right questions. So to not ask, well, why, right? Because the why is backwards as opposed to how or what can you do or how. So ask, and it's asking the deeper questions and then asking it again and asking it again to have them problem solve. So for me, it wasn't common to ask and then ask again to get down to the root of how they could solve the problem and create a solution on their own. So it feels like coaching feels like it should just not be that hard, but you tend to fall back to the, I'm the leader, I need to have the answers, let me tell you what to do. So, and then the listening part for me too, just really listen hard and repeat back to make sure things that you said and the way I heard it were actually the same, because I tend to hear things through my own filters. So when you repeat back, what I heard you say was, and then making sure that everybody's on the same page. So that stuff isn't common, or it wasn't common for me. So that was really helpful learning to practice that with other people.
So good.
And for it to be safe, right? That was the big thing. I think the biggest help, Jen, was when we were doing these coaching sessions and you would stop us and be like, okay, what if you asked it this way, right? So the correction at the time of mistake was really helpful, because when you're in the middle of a coaching or
Fighting fires.
radical candor or whatever, you tend to just speak. You don't necessarily know what you said or didn't say that could have been improved. So that was really great, was your listening, having us try with the two people going through a conversation, you interjecting, saying a better way might have been this, or what if we would have done this? So that was invaluable, that you can't get in the real world of coaching.
Great. What else, you guys?
Well, that was really good. A lot of the same thoughts. I also, it helped me realize or deal with the natural fear and the threat that we feel like when someone brings something to us. That was a hard thing for me as a younger manager, new to it. Like it feels very vulnerable to kind of just sit and be present and listen and then ask questions. There was I don't know, I think there's an instinctive knee-jerk reaction. It's like, I've got to jump in, solve things, calm things down. It feels very threatening. Maybe there's a conflict going on in the workplace or just, a debate about how we should do things. So having that practice to sit in with somebody and just listen and learn to ask good questions helps you then when you have a framework to work with when you're then with an employee or a coworker, to get through that vulnerability, that feeling of like threat to yourself. And so I found that really useful. And then again, those aha moments of, we're only coaching in a triad for a few minutes in each time, here and there, to find that it was actually really helpful to talk with someone who is, completely unknowledgeable about my situation, and that I could be helpful vice versa when I'm coaching them, just by being present, asking good questions, helping, the whole thought process through that. It was really eye-opening to the value of the coaching.
Okay. That's great. A lot of people will say it's scary, like that part scares them or makes them go, I don't think I'm ready to do that. They'll say role playing. And I'm like, no, it's more like real playing. Like you're going to really work on something. So Brittany, do you have anything you want to add to that topic?
Yeah, I felt like it was very intimidating at the beginning, but I gained so much confidence in the fact that we also did not know everybody else's background. So we didn't necessarily know what they did for a job. So we didn't know the specific details of their situation, just general scenarios that all of us go through. So I agree with everything that they were saying, but I just felt so much confidence after working through that. Like, oh, okay, I can help somebody in all different varieties of a situation or friends or family or things that aren't related to the job as well. Because I am just being there for them and asking good quality questions and kind of guiding them. So that was really powerful. And hearing the feedback from the other people within the group afterwards was very valuable too. And just talking through how we can do better and what we did good and stuff like that. I really gained a lot of confidence and felt more comfortable by the end of it, but it was very terrifying at the beginning.
What would you say to somebody who's sitting watching this going, I don't know, that just feels too, like, I don't think I'm ready for that. What would you say to them?
You can absolutely do it because Jen is there for you to help you through it, and everybody else is there with you. And Jen, I love how you jump in and help guide them if there's something that they're stuck on, like, help me, I don't know where to go from here. You help to guide them through that and gain that confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Better to have that kind of uncomfortable feeling in that safe place, Jen, like you said, right? Rather than makes it easier. How about you? Would you guys, do you have a thought you'd share or a line you'd say to somebody who's like, oh, that seems scary, a little uncomfortable?
I would say, I would start every session feeling that way. It's like, and then I'm always happy at the end. I have to remind myself that. It's the same with Lead Well in general. It's like, oh, do I have time for this? And then I do it and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I showed up for coaching with Jen or with Lead Well. And same with the triad stuff. It's always scary. Even if you've been doing it for a while, it's like, it's human awkwardness. We don't want to stand out, but then it's always good.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that if you're seeking out leadership coaching, you understand that change and growth sometimes is hard and scary, and you're not going to get better unless you push through that. And the same with your team members, right? So I think Jen's curated the perfect scenario to push us through that uncomfortable zone, and that there will be growth on the other side if you can just, and the fact that it's safe, like it truly is a safe spot, knowing that everybody in that room feels equally as vulnerable as you do. And nobody's judging. That's the big thing. So push through the pain of growth and know that no one's judging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good. Okay, let's go. Thank you guys. It's just so good. And by the way, when people do practice, we have something called the pause button when they do the hot seat. We call it taking the hot seat, and you practice coaching somebody else and helping them solve a problem, really, by utilizing really great development skills that you can use in your leadership. So you have the power of the pause button. You can stop and say, hey, Jen, help. Or some people give me the permission to stop them. It's not easy though. I remember doing it one of the first times I did it when I was training as a coach, and I was very uncomfortable, very, very, very uncomfortable. It's messed up a lot, but that's how you learn, like you said. Okay, so let's just talk about I want to hear your highlights. What changed as a result of your development? What changed about you? What changed about your team? And what changed about your organization? Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I'm just going to go because I'd like to step at the front of the line. I'm sorry about that. I guess for me, there's two big things. When somebody comes to you, they generally just want to talk about why they're unhappy with things, right? So they want to complain about somebody, complain about their job, complain about whatever it is. And so as a leader, you're often handed that card of how do I do this? So it's a simple thing, Jen, but everybody I talk to, I use the same line. Jen's comment when I'd start a coaching session with her was, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to drive your BMW, which means you can bitch, moan, and whine for 2 minutes about the problem. So the difference between coaching and, therapy is that, the bitch, moaning, and whining in the therapy is about talking about all the things that are wrong and all the things in the past that have happened. And coaching is problem solving, getting out of the victim mentality and solving problems. So for me, that was a really definitive moment. Sometimes you need to let people get that emotion out. And I'll do that, but I'll set a very clear expectation that this half an hour meeting or 15-minute meeting is not about that. We're gonna understand the issue, and then we're gonna move forward and try to solve the problem. So that was a huge one for me that I've carried into everything. And I think it helps people get an understanding of, oh, okay, I'm not gonna just come and complain for half an hour. I'm in the problem solving mindset. If I come to you, I need to change my mindset. So that's been huge. I think that a lot of our team has learned that, or at least when they come to me with things like, okay, I need to have a solution.
So good to hear that you're using that
I
continually.
do. I use the BMW all the time. I love it. And then the second one for me that I try to help people understand is just your duct tape tool. So Jen sent us duct tape, and essentially it means wait. So why am I talking? So when someone comes to you or is problem solving, allow the uncomfortable pauses to happen and just sit, because in those uncomfortable pauses comes the answer generally at the end, right? So that time that person stops talking and you don't need to solve it, allow them to process that and then continue, because there's always that pause between where they're going and where they're at the end. So embrace the uncomfortable pause and just have the word wait on your face, or in your mind. Why am I talking? So stopping, letting them talk, and going forward. Those are two big ones that I've carried on, that I think the listening is the big thing in that, and seeing what you can parse out. Because generally what someone says at the beginning and what they say at the end, it's that last, 2 seconds where the truth comes out. So waiting until that 2 seconds and not jumping in.
It's so good. And the duct tape is it reminds you to grab an imaginary piece of duct tape and put it over your mouth when you want to speak, when you probably need to be listening. What else? Let's hear from you, Dietrich. I'll call on you guys because that's probably easier. What is a result changed for you personally as you have been evolving your leadership skills? You're muted.
My bad. So personally, well, I mentioned some, for me being more comfortable in my own skin when people bring things to me. So that pause, I love the WAIT acronym. Why am I talking? But being comfortable in that and being okay with not having all the answers, that's been a big personal change for me. But then also self-mastery comes into it, just as part of learning to be a coach. You're learning to also coach yourself. Personal mastery, it's kind of a thought process. I will even find myself, if I have, some time on my own, even talk out loud to myself, help process out loud. Like, okay, well, Dietrich, what's a good question to ask here? So that's the big personal change for me, being comfortable in my own skin and letting others do that processing and thinking. So they're taking on more of the responsibility, more they discover their capabilities in the process. For me, it's allowed me just to bring more people into the leadership and the bigger picture. That it's less I'm the center of the whole web of everything that's happening, and it decentralizes our processes. So we have location, coaches. We don't call them necessarily supervisors or managers, but they're actually coaches. So they have a team of people they coach. They're connecting with on a weekly basis, coaching on a monthly basis. And we have found, since we've implemented that process, the next level up of management and leadership, we're getting less of the questions, less of the problem solving, which is a good thing. We'd had a on-call supervisor phone number for a long while. We would take turns being on. We found that number just doesn't get called anymore, because it's happening at the bottom, the right at the level of the services we provide. Things are being handled and figured out, and that was mind-blowing to see that happen. As we trained those location coaches to develop these processes, these skills. how much it changed things for us. We talk about like in the military, they have like, I'm not military, but I have family military, you know, the lowest level of leadership, you know, when it comes to solving problems, you know, start with the individual, then maybe there's 2 individuals involved. And like, you want to solve things at the lowest level possible. You don't want to go up to a 5-star general with conflict between 2 people or for a decision that needs to be made. And we've kind of inadvertently implemented the same thing. It's just by empowering others, they are doing that problem solving at the lowest level.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
To get rid of that number. I remember you coaching sometimes about the process went around that, like on-call supervisor. I mean, that's big ripple effect, right? When you think about the development. Okay, how about you, Brittany, for yourself, personally, your team, and your organization?
So I've had a ton of significant changes and mindset shifts and a lot of things that have really changed my business and my team and my organization. And difficult conversations were by far my biggest opportunity of growth. It's like terrified of them. I had a really hard time with them. And I had a situation come up within the organization where I had to handle a difficult conversation. And it was so incredibly helpful because Jen has a difficult conversation map to work through. So it helps guide you. And then also I was able to chat with her and the rest of the group in the Facebook group and kind of work through that. And she held my hand as if I was a 5-year-old, like guiding me through every little step of it, which I thought was incredibly helpful because after it was time to talk with the girl, I would have definitely not done it if Jen was not there for me. So it was just extremely helpful. I'm like, I have to do this. Jen is, you know, waiting on my response after this is over. So I pushed through it and it was one of my biggest struggles. I don't like making people upset. I don't like handling those kinds of things, but I realized through this process that that is my job, is to do that. My team is counting on me to resolve those situations and those conflicts, and just creating a culture where we have the standards of having boundaries and good communication. And so it's been a huge shift on how I thought about difficult conversations through this process. So now I feel a lot more confident handling them, and it's not something that's fun for me, but it is something I can work through. And it just helps with everything. The duct tape, as Jen was talking about, has been helpful to just pause a moment. And it's the same thing with difficult conversations, is just to pause and work through it beforehand instead of getting myself all worked up and stressed out over it. So that's been definitely a huge shift for me. And that has affected my team because it's just a better culture now, you know? And I've also, the second thing is new habits of having those effective conversations and effective questions, which also goes hand in hand with the difficult conversations, and just listening and putting my duct tape on and giving that pause has really helped me to understand the need of the employee instead of making an assumption. And I can truly work through the issue with them instead of just thinking I know what they are wanting from the conversation. So those are my 2 biggest things.
That's great. It's like you've raised the standard.
Mhm.
You know, like I like how you brought it back to culture. Like it's a standard now of conflict. We resolve conflicts early and often. I mean, we like to kind of say that and plant that seed to be a part of the culture. Let's talk for a little bit about the ROI. So maybe we've gotten better at doing that inside of LeadWell, asking people questions. So we really are clear on what is the potential monetary value of your goals happening. And so as some of those goals happen, just share some of them either. And I mean, it could be time savings and monetary, increases, promotions. What kind of things have happened for you guys? What kind of a ripple effect? And talk about some of those hard numbers for people. Dietrich, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So we've talked about this recently. It is sometimes hard to quantify, but for me, like coaching was really at the start of this process. After owning the company for a few years, the coaching process led to setting some goals for the company. And amazingly, like spring of this year, looked back and realized we just accomplished all those goals that we had set back in 2015-ish, somewhere back there about 6 years ago. And I was like, oh, we made it. You know, we've added other goals here and there, but that was really the start of our growth. So it's been a part of our expansion of our company. The company's grown 1,400% now at this point.
1,400%.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Like I get it sometimes. I mean, my biggest challenge was conveying these numbers sometimes of the real results because they can seem so unbelievable. That's just incredible.
Yeah. And sure, coaching isn't 100% of that, but it's been a large part. And it
Yeah.
really was the creation of those goals. It's been part of the way along the way. It was more easy to quantify looking at, so we have a key partner. We created another agency 4 years ago. And there that was started with coaching at its core from the beginning. And we talked about how coaching has saved business, saved contracts, has been part of maintaining its strength and its ability to grow. And it's really taken off. And in 4 years, short 4 years, has turned into a good sized company with over 30 employees now. And so the return on investment, it's been pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like you're speaking of Steve, and he was on a discussion in the conference yesterday. And I think we were looking at the numbers. I think it was like, easily a 10 times investment, a 10 times return. We found easily, like, I think it was, around $100,000, and that directly related kind of time savings and cost savings. And that was just reflecting on a few scenarios, but it is an important question. We do ask, so 1,400% growth, what we'll ask is how much of that would you attribute to your growth and development as a leader in our program? So even thinking about a percentage, Dietrich, what would you say for your, I know it's a little squishy, but it's, an anecdotal response is better, at least good to say. And it can be, what would you say that percentage is?
I would say Leadwell is responsible for 35-40% of that, because it's the recipe that's led to like our stability. It's part of what's led to us even going down this journey. But it's also part of our selling our agency for contracts and services. Like we have a workforce that is being coached. We have a certain culture, and coaching is really at the heart of that. So if it wasn't for that, we would have plateaued a long time ago in our growth, and would have had a hard time maintaining what growth we did have. Things would have just started falling apart around us. So that doesn't mean we don't have growing pains still. Right. Every time we grow, we bring out a whole new group of people we have to grow and bring into our culture and teach and train. But it's that coaching's at the heart of all that.
Yeah. Get you more time for flying.
Yeah.
That's a fun ripple effect. How about you, Jen? Share some of those numbers and measurables that you've noticed, and how much would you attribute to coaching and development inside of Leadwell?
Yeah, I can speak to it on two sides. One of them is a little more peripheral than the other. So I sit on the senior leadership team for Flint Group, and there's 7 of us. And in part of this, and I can only control my role in that leadership group, but probably 4 or 5 years ago, I would call it the 7 dysfunctions of a team, right? Or the 5 dysfunctions of a team with 7 people. With that, if you've read that book. I'm pretty sure we could say like we're all 5, like all in. And so through coaching, at least on my own, what I can control and bring to that team, I would say that today within all of our 8 companies, our SLT is by far the strongest. And that's showing in the revenue. Like in 2021 has been the best year we've had in our 75-year history. We have projected growth in the next 2 years that's exponential than we would have ever thought of. So I don't think we would have gotten there without really forming a tight bond as a strong leadership team. So again, I'm 1/7 of that, but it all matters. I think the weak link is usually will matter in that. So making sure that each of us has that role. of making sure that we're doing the best we can to lead ourselves and to lead others. So as we're part of that team, so that's been great. And personally, it's been for sure raises and promotions. So I mentioned the 9 different jobs, but now I'm leading a team of 19 across 8 organizations in 2 countries.
Yeah,
so that's
totally
been
different.
financial. Yeah, so I'm leading much larger than just the local team, and then that's just meant pay increases. And I would, the numbers are a little harder for me, even just fiscally, but I think for sure there's a percentage of my year-over-year salary increases that can be attributed to my leading myself and leading my team better than I did before Lead Well and your personal coaching.
It's really cool to hear. I love also how you've been intentional in that leadership team to, there's a ripple effect there. And it sounds like you've taken some intentional steps along the way and you're seeing benefit.
Yeah. And I use what I've learned to, and sharing that with the team, right? Sharing a lot of these tips as the team grows and coaches, and as they coach their people, I think it's helped us as a team to learn some of these tactics.
So good. Yeah. Love that. We hear that a lot. There's another senior VP that was in Lead Well, and she just taught, I think people were even like in her group saying, what are you doing? What's different about you? Because you've changed.
Yeah. And that was the notice from the president of our company and the CEO both said the same thing. Like, I don't know what you've done in your leadership things, but it shows exponentially in how you handle situations, how you lead your team. So that for me, even just that feedback
that's huge, Jen.
All the
Congratulations. I'm proud with you. That's so good. I do want you to calculate how much more you're making now than back, and at some point send me, because we can add that and get it. It's just nice to have those concrete numbers for people who are considering making the investment to see the reality. But man, even just what you're saying is so powerful.
Yeah, I would say, from a salary increase, I could probably say 15 to 20%.
20% more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so great. Congrats.
Yeah, that matters.
Congrats. Yeah. And did you say how much you would attribute Lead Well to how much would you attribute the development you had in Lead Well to some of that growth?
I would attribute most all of it because of the mindset shift change for sure. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, it would have just been things I learned on my own. So this intentionality of seeking out Lead Well and leadership coaching just created that momentum across the board holistically. Otherwise, you'd still be in that same vulnerability trap of not being sure that you're in the right spot. Right.
Yeah. Send those other senior leaders our way. We'd love to help them. Imagine what a team of everybody transformed would look like. Okay, Brittany, how about you? Talk a little bit about your ROI.
Okay, so many changes. I was working 7 days a week, you guys, all day, every day, superstar syndrome again. So with this program has really helped me to create systems and really make some really drastic changes in my business. And I'm working 3 days a week now, and I'm working in my business. And so I've been able to take more time to work on my business and work with the leaders and really help to develop. So it's been such a huge shift, and I feel a lot more respect for my team and growth in my business. One thing that's really cool, so I've had a 23% increase in my income.
Nice.
However, I only have 1 location right now. I have 4 opening in the next month or 2 here.
Nice. So that's a part of your goals too. I was just looking at your manifesto the other day.
Yeah, so that will do drastic increase in my income as well, having those locations opening. So that is really awesome. And I feel like I'm attracting, I'm having higher retention and attracting better people into the business because I've changed. So that's been a huge growth for me. I've been having more effective meetings. It's honestly like really changed my life. And I feel like I really truly feel like, you guys, it would take me 10 years of doing what I was doing to be where I am in 1 year of this Lead Well program. It's because I was doing the deal. I was working on myself. I was doing personal development. I was going to different conferences and stuff like that. And I was I was changing, but not even nearly as close to what has changed with this program. So I feel like honestly, it would take me 10 years to be where I am a year ago
Mhm.
if I didn't do this program. So for me, it's just the time freedom has been huge.
That is great, Brittany. I'm so happy for you. Your life's got to feel so much more peaceful.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I mean, the ripple, it's amazing. It's so fun. Isn't it fun to hear this? Even each other's?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you, okay, we're getting to the top of the hour here. So let me, and if there's a couple of questions I was gonna ask. Okay. Would you do Lead Well again? That's what somebody wanted to know. Would you do it again? Jen? And I mean, don't feel pressure to say yes because I'm here.
Yeah, no, I went through it twice back to back, which was great. And I think I would do it again. I might just give it time to say, you know what, because a part of it is instead of doing it back to back to back to back, is give some time because there's self-learning that's involved in that, and then go back for those refresher courses, right? And do it again that way.
Okay. Brittany?
Yeah, I would say absolutely yes, 100%. I've loved everything I've learned, and I've grown a ton and learned new skills that I never even knew were available. So absolutely.
Okay. Dietrich?
Yeah, I would do it all over again. I've done it. I think I've done Lead Well 3 times, maybe at least 3 times. And I've sent a handful of employees through it to have one in there. A couple of them doing Lead Well right now. Yeah, I like Jen. I would take a break maybe after this current one and then come back to it again later. But yeah, absolutely, it was well worth it.
That's great. I think it's also important to, I mean, as I'm hearing you guys talk, our goal was to design something that was adaptable. So wherever you're at on the continuum of your leadership development, it will work. And some people like really focus on the personal aspect of it. I mean, you could come to Lead Well and just work on your personal development as a leader and not even talk about your skills of communicating. You know, you could work on all of your personal things that, you know, it's really a holistic program, and it's not like a cookie cutter approach. That was really important to me. And even it was hard to design training at first, because I just thought, I was almost stubborn, thinking I'm not going to tell somebody exactly what they need to do for success, because it's unique to each individual. So I feel like we have figured out a good way to help you figure out what you need and kind of design your own program within the program, if you will. Okay. This is maybe our last question. What were a few tools, you've all talked about some of them, but what were a few tools you've learned to move from the leadership fog of being overwhelmed to clarity? Dietrich, let's start with you.
Oh man. It's the tools that I see myself using all the time. Wait, why am I talking?
The acronym.
Also, just dealing with assumptions in conversations. I'm teaching this constantly too. Every new employee is going to hear it from me at some point. Like, hey, just ask. Hey, I saw this. Can you tell me more about that? Or I noticed this. Can you tell me, why? Avoiding why, but like, tell me more about that. That's my big thing. I keep going back to. It's like I'm constantly preaching, just get intentionally curious and ask questions. Like, tell me more about that. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It doesn't have to be like, hey, why'd you do that? But like, I keep going back to that. Also, there are some things, with Lead Well, you end up going through some of the personal mastery and just understanding where you're at. I keep going back to those early tools, like the healthy wheel of life. I don't know what the name of it is.
Yeah.
And just kind of grading all the different areas.
Yeah.
And it's not a scale of 1 to 10, but the farther out in the circle, the more happy are you with it. And just I keep going back to that and regrading things and seeing how smooth are things, where is this feeling of things not being quite right or where I want them to be coming from. And that is where I get my short-term, midterm goals. Like, all right, I'm gonna set some goals for those things where it's not living up. I love that wheel. It was just kind of in one of those aha moments that I keep going back to because I found it so useful and enlightening at the first time I went through it. It's got some good feelings for me.
It's awesome to hear. That's great. I'm also reminded the lesson on assumptions, Dietrich, I go back to it too all the time. So I'm going to encourage you to go back and peek at it because it's like every time I review it, it's so deep but it's so simple. And there's a great question there. And it's what I noticed this behavior, like I noticed what prompted that. That's instead of the why that you were asking. And
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
good. I'm just like, every time I look at it, I'm like, I use that with working with teams and helping people solve issues all the time. How about you, Jen? Or let's go to Brittany and then Jen.
Okay, so the tools, a lot of the things that Dietrich just said were very valuable to me, but having systems in place, I didn't have a lot of systems within my business, and it is so important. And it helped to have other people take on some of those responsibilities that I was doing and empower them to learn those skills. So if they own their own business, they would know exactly how to operate every piece of the system. So we rotate responsibilities, and that's been really, really effective. And having those good questions, like for example, I work in nutrition. So this is an example, not even related to leading somebody, but why do you want to lose weight? Sounds so much differently than what are you most excited about with your weight loss journey? It's just like such a different feeling when you say that, especially with a sensitive topic like that. So it's helped me with working with customers, working with friends and family, working with people that I lead. And that difficult conversations map, I should carry a copy with me everywhere that I go. And I use that a ton because it really helps me with the assumptions and working through the conversation before I actually have to have it, and just calms me a little bit so I can go into it and feel really good and confident.
Nice. So good. So good. So many fun things. How about you, Jen? Tools that you have used to help you lift the fog of
Yeah, there are a couple. I think one of them is there's the what should I be doing versus what I am doing, and then delegation of that, right? So there's a document in there somewhere about like, here are the things that I'm doing. What can I delegate? And really getting better at trusting the team and coaching and not having to own it. I tend to be one of those, well, I'll just do it. Right. So doing better at delegating and trusting and using that, what should I be working on? I would agree with you that I constantly go back to the good questions. And I know it's that simple, but there were the four, like what to use and what not to use. So making sure that we word conversation with intention is critical. And then this was part of the personal coaching more than the other one, but the personal manifesto on where do you want to be and how are you going to get there? Like a really clear path. I've used that as a coaching tool for my team to really just focus on where they want to go. And part of that is the whole life cycle. But I go back to that every month and update it and review it and say, where am I at? You know, what do I need to do to get where I'm going to? Because a lot of times if you just write it down, it makes the fog of chaos settle a little bit.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, that is good. What, if any, burning questions do you have for each other? Did you come up with a question that you want to share? If at all. You all ask good questions, so I want to ask. No question. Brittany, do you have a question?
Well, we just went through so many helpful questions.
right?
I'm like, geez, what didn't we talk about?
We did. It's been such an honor to work with you guys and to be a part of your journey. I mean, it's just, it's a simple piece of your bigger career and your lives. And I'm just so grateful that you invited us in to help and support. And it's just music to my ears to hear all of the ripple effects and the domino effect in your lives, in your personal life, in your hobbies, in your growth. So thank you. so much for allowing me and this company and our team to be a part of what you guys have done and are doing. And it's so cool to see it's like the gift that keeps on giving. To hear you talk about how you've, are developing, to hear Steve yesterday, Dietrich, talking about how he's modeling the way you used to mentor him with other people, and he's totally getting intentional. And Jen, to hear how you're, influencing the behavior of the senior leadership team in your company. We just had somebody yesterday who was struggling with her C-suite. And I was just like, oh, you just wait until you hear Jen. You just gotta listen to her. And Brittany, this overworking that so many people do, and you've been so vulnerable and honest about your journey and how, it was such a deep and personal journey to reduce your schedule and to see it. And as you guys share your experiences, it really inspires and impacts other people. So I value you. I appreciate you taking the time. And we'll close with this. Somebody said, I love how Dietrich uses those tools to stay grounded. Yeah, it's been fun hearing how what resonated for different people. Like I had no idea you went back and used the Wheel of Life. It's such a great tool. So you guys have an awesome day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for having us,
everybody.
Jen.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.